Well, let's talk about the Time magazine cover, Moira. Who's on the cover as Person of the Year, Persons of the Year?
Well, you can see for 2014 they decided to celebrate the Ebola fighters, this transcontinental medical drama which ensues still. I couldn't get a number today, and that's a number that's going to be changing because it's a battle we're still fighting. And hemorrhagic disease.
And it's interesting, guys, that in the mix of Ebola with international headlines and stories, concerns, fears, there was the church.
Yes.
There were Christian leaders with Samaritan's Purse and with other organizations. And then we had the opportunity in September to interview Franklin Graham as to how their organization was mobilizing and how they had gotten the serum or the medicine, experimental, to one of the Ebola patients. And then later, Cheryl Weber on our team interviewed the couple that she was affected by. She was with Samaritan's Purse, was she? Or was she with Compassion? Or?
Kent Brantley. Dr.
SIM.
Kent Brantley was with Samaritan's Purse.
But SIM was the lady that we had the opportunity to interview with Cheryl Weber recently, the Right Bulls. And so we'll look forward to seeing what's going on there.
This was, just quickly, here's a quote from Dr. Kent Brantley. He said, "I am forever thankful to God for sparing my life, and I'm glad for any attention my sickness has attracted to the plight of West Africa in the midst of this epidemic." Great spirit in these Ebola fighters.
Great choice by Time magazine to make those people who've gone into these dangerous areas of disease with some hope as the Persons of the Year. And Cheryl Weber put together a little summary overview of the Ebola crisis. Watch this.
In what is by far the largest Ebola outbreak in history, the virus has decimated fragile and underfunded health systems in the West African countries of Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia. But what has sparked fear and panic around the world was its appearance in Western nations, such as the United States, Europe, and the UK. Fear of one of the world's deadliest pathogens has driven many countries to cancel flights to all of Africa, and the continent's tourism industry has ground to a virtual halt. The World Health Organization says there are signs the virus is slowing on a national level in Liberia and Guinea, but Sierra Leone's cases are still escalating. Fluctuations in transmission have happened in the past, and experts cannot predict how or when the outbreak will be contained. With some promising signs in experimental treatments on animals, Doctors Without Borders is launching human trials on Ebola patients in West Africa using 3 diverse therapies. A move that is unusual in the scientific field, but is seen as an appropriate response to a pathogen that is killing so many.
We had the privilege of speaking with SIM aid worker Nancy Wrightbull and her husband David. Here's a portion of that interview with Cheryl Weber.
Well, David was the one who came in to tell me that night. He had gone to a meeting with the doctors from SIM and with Samaritan's Purse, and he met one of the other doctors who had received the phone call that I was positive with Ebola, and so he and the doctors walked back home. And he came in and said, "Nancy, I just have some really hard news that I need to talk to you about." And so first of all, he shared with me that Dr. Kent Brantley, our colleague and our very good friend, had Ebola. And I was heartbroken. Kent and Amber and their family are just wonderful friends and the same age as our sons. And so I was kind of reeling with all that news. And then David said, "And Nancy, so do you." Ugh. And I think my biggest concern at that point was for David, because he had been at home, of course, for the last 4 days while I had fever. And he reached out to just put his arms around me and comfort me, and I just said, "Don't." Just knowing how serious Ebola is.
We know what it is to live with a stigma, so to speak, and so we would hope that people would change, and that we obviously we can't control that, but yeah, we have an identification that perhaps we didn't have before, so we can know how to pray for our brothers and sisters in West Africa.
We are just so thankful for the way that the Lord has provided to be able to have the isolation unit there on our campus, and people are able to come and to get medical help. The director of our hospital, a Liberian doctor, is running that isolation unit and just doing amazing work there. And yeah, you know, the hospital work goes on, and we are very, very concerned about women that need to have babies, having a place to be able to come. Right now, our hospital is the only hospital delivering babies in Monrovia, a population of 1.4 million people.
Well, Nancy Wright-Bull is my goodness, is such a recipient of the grace of God, a miraculous story.
And a modern day hero. She is wearing a wig in that interview because it seems all of the patients, because of that intense treatment, after it was completed, lost their hair.
And they're really the hands and feet of Jesus, because these ministries that help out are representing Jesus to those who are in such desperate need. And it's just amazing to see them in action, even in the midst of terrible, you know, harm to their own bodies. And so God bless them.